I needed to get started a little earlier, so just
Yeah,
sorry about
yeah, that's no need to apologize.
that.
We're here on the Gore show. We have I think our official first guest. We did an interview with Ham Porkman yesterday from Torture Pig, but the audio's a little messed up. So we have Eddie from Sordo here today. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate you coming on. We just wanted to chat about Sordo, chat about you, man. What you got going on?
Yeah, cool, man. I mean, right now it's we haven't had any shows recently, but I think we played with Wormrot a while back. That
Yeah.
was pretty sick.
Fuck.
Just being able to see them. It's supposed to be like the original lineup from I don't know when, but they hadn't been there in a while, I guess, in LA. And but yeah, it was sick. They were just super nice dudes, and their set was sick. And yeah, it was just cool to go there and crank out a set, and
Right.
just vibe.
How many? I mean, do you know how many lineup changes Wormrod has undergone? Because I think they came around when I was like in high school, like mid 2000s. Like how many lineup changes have they gone through?
It's good trivia, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was trying to think off the top of my head. I have no idea.
I also like haven't kept up with Wormrot in a while. I remember liking their stuff when I listened to it, but it has been a while.
No, definitely super solid.
I might have to go back and listen to that. I don't listen to enough grind. I need to listen to more grind.
You really should. It's great. It's a fantastic genre to get into.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, so I know Eli is too, but I'm super, super stoked to have you here, Eduardo, because tactical precision violence gets semi-regular play at my house. It's
Nice.
yeah, that shit hit for me like as soon as I first heard it. I mean the Street Fighter sample at the beginning of that release. I'm like, okay, all right, I know what we're getting into. So I guess one of my questions is, I mean, I'm sure you get asked this frequently, but what made you get your start playing Powerviolence? What got you into this style of music?
A lot of it was it was a brand new genre for me at the time. I remember like right out of high school, I was getting into like punk barely, so a lot of Black Flag and Descendants and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then after a while, it kind of just got like too boring, and then I was trying to make something more just like not like violent or anything, but just more I guess more hardcore. As I was getting into like Gorilla Biscuits and stuff, and things were just getting faster and like not necessarily tougher, but just like the audio and just the sound was just a bit more ferocious.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I know some people like will poo-poo Gorilla Biscuits for being straight edge, but God,
Yeah.
they go so
they're
fucking
sick.
hard.
They're great.
Yeah. They're super sick.
Dude, I saw them. They're fucking incredible. They're
Yeah.
such a good fucking band.
Good
But yeah,
stuff.
so I mean, that tracks for, I feel like just about everyone on some degree, is the desire to go more extreme, to go harder, to go heavier, to go more aggressive. So yeah, I mean, follow-up question to that, do you ever find yourself going back to those earlier bands like Black Flag and Descendants and thinking like, okay, there's still something here, like I can still find something to be inspired by?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, like I listen to the Descendants a lot, just regularly. They're just a personal favorite band of mine, but like even like the Misfits and stuff, and like I know they get a lot of like crap for just I guess being like sellouts or whatever, but it's still fun to listen to it, and just like kind of have it on and
Hey, look, man, I listen to American Psycho all the time. I don't get to talk shit, okay?
No, yeah, I hear
love-
you.
I
I
love that
mean, the one thing that bummed me out was finding out like Michael Graves is more like kind of like a right wing dude,
Oh,
But
he's such a fucking tool.
Yeah.
Like his performances on the stuff he did with them are really good all the same. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, he's a fucking goober, and everyone should ignore
He's
him.
a fucking goober.
He carried
Absolutely,
the Misfits
dude.
though. Like a lot of the songs from like American Psycho and Famous Monsters, that was like pretty much all him writing it, and like
Yeah,
the guy Jerry Only was kind of like I don't want to say exactly using him, but he kind of did. He could kind of say he argued that, like he was using it to like
So-
keep the Misfits alive and stuff. But
yeah. Do you think Jerry like viewed him as just sort of like a vocalist for hire?
No, because I mean, like it was all business for them back then. So
Yeah.
he did like the smarter thing. He knew what the Misfits was like about, and he was trying to keep it more like, I guess like campy, like rewatching like
Sure.
classic sci-fi mystery movies or horror movies. And then like Danzig, he was like, I'm into witchcraft and shit. I'm gonna do a seance. And so like that was his thing, and like he was super into the occult, and like he had Sandpine and whatever. So
yeah, I mean, to be
it was
fair,
just like differences of opinions. Like it was obvious he wanted to keep like the campiness around, for like the kids, I guess maybe.
Sure.
But it's still cool. It's like I didn't really like any of the new stuff that he wrote on his own. Jerry only was like Dez and who was I think Robo or someone or Marky Ramone.
Yeah,
but it's still cool.
Yeah, I don't really know about the Jerry only written stuff. He's I don't think he's quite got it. But by the way, I will say November Coming Fire, great Sam Hain album, actually very good. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like I know Michael Graves is like an annoying prick, but goddamn, dude, like the music he recorded them. I don't know. I think the campy stuff and the occult stuff both have a place in the Misfits because the Misfits were and always have been a fucking ridiculous band. So they're a silly, over the top, goofy band no matter what they do. So I feel like, but I don't think either one of those don't deserve a place in their music.
Yeah.
I think
I heard a story one time that the Misfits back in like the 80s from like all like the punks over here, that they came to Silver Strand, I guess, one time a long time ago. And when they came, they like, decked out like full on vampires. So they looked like the freaking Lost Boys, And so they went to the beach and like people were just staring at them like, what the fuck are these dudes like on, Like it's not Halloween and they're like, it's probably like hot in the summer, when they're touring. Yeah. But they get like decked out in their leather and they have like their, their fucking eyeshadow shit or makeup, whatever. But they're just like walking around and, like the dudes are tall, like they're like freaking football players, I think.
Oh yeah,
dude, Doyle, right?
Yeah, Doyle's like 6'7". That dude's
dude's fucking ripped, and they're like even now, I don't know about Jerry, but I still see like pictures online of Doyle and he's still fucking ripped, man.
Bro,
like, he's just knocking it out.
Oh yeah, he's a fucking brick shithouse, man. Yeah. He could, although I've heard he's actually a very cool guy. Like, I've seen some interviews and stuff with him. He seems like he'd be pretty chill.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you, like, how exactly did Sordo come around? And it's not a one-man project, right? It's you and one other member.
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was myself pretty much starting it, and then I got my brother to join up. He does vocals. And then I was playing for another band for a little bit called Wages of Fear, and it was more just like kind of skate punk stuff, more classic nardcore kind of vibes. And then I had another buddy, his name's Marco, and we go way back. We even have a song about him, but pretty much he introduced me to like all the Powerviolence stuff, and it was really cool. Like he showed me Charles Bronson, Capitalist Casualties, Infest, and Spas, like all like the main powerhouse acts.
Yeah.
And it was super influential.
Back-to-back hitters.
Yeah, like it was just like exactly what I was kind of like looking for, something that was just way more aggressive and stuff. And like right out of high school too, like everybody was really into like hardcore and like metalcore stuff, but like at the time I was calling it jockcore, because it was just a bunch of dudes who were like fronting, trying to be like super tough and like beat people up and shit at shows randomly.
Yeah.
And like I was on the side where like, like I'm a dork, in high school, I'm like super nerdy and shit, playing video games and watching SpongeBob all day. And I'm like, but I still enjoy the music, and it's not fair for people to be like talking shit just because you don't look the part or you don't look tough enough or whatever. So the goal for Sordo at the time, and like I've been thinking about it a lot recently, is just trying to write new things. But the goal then was to make something that was harder than the hardcore kids and like just more musically like I guess thoughtful, because like if you listen to like a lot of metalcore and stuff, I'm not like trying to like throw shade at it or anything, but it's just like really repetitive to the point where it drools, and it's just not fun to listen to. And like to see the windmilling shit back then and crowd, it was just too much, So at the time it was just like, I want to make something that makes these people cringe, like I want to scare them to the point where they're like, what the fuck is that? That's just noise. And it's like, you're no one to judge. You're no one to compare. You guys' shit's way worse. And you guys have your funny little haircuts and your ass jeans and shit, So I mean, one of our first shows we played, it was at a bar over here called Bilio's, and you know, when we opened up, it was like a bunch of like old barhead people just kind of hanging out and stuff like that. But
Ah,
a lot of the songs we wrote were really like stupid songs because we weren't trying to take ourselves seriously, but at the same time, it was kind of like the point of it. So like one of the songs is something jury duty, the complexities of jury duty. And so we threw that out, and like for whatever reason, the entire bar was like, you know, yeah, fuck jury duty, you know. We had to get out behind us like right then and there, and it was just a bunch of like dumbass songs. So they understood really quick what we were about, you know, like we're
Yeah.
gonna be taken seriously about everything, you know, like it's music. You're supposed to enjoy it and relate to it. You're
yeah.
not supposed to go and like be worried that you're gonna get fucking like crowd killed by like four dudes who got really
Yeah.
insecure macho, you know,
Yeah.
shit, you
See
know,
this.
going on. So
See, this is the key. I think you just have to write songs about shit everybody hates, like jury duty,
Jury duty, yeah, that's
or
perfect.
DUI checkpoints.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, venues that won't let you have alcohol. You know,
Yeah, there's certain things that just pop up. Your stomach sticking out further than your penis. I mean, you guys had that. I mean, yeah, you got that going. So I mean,
yeah.
you had that song. So yeah, a lot of
that
stuff
was
like that.
that was a huge issue when we were younger, a lot more, just because like everybody was all like, oh, you know, like my brother and I, we were a lot heavier back then, but it was just like these dudes are like, you know, they're so big, like you can't take them seriously, and it's like,
What?
what else are you gonna talk about? You
Yeah.
know, like once you get
Yeah,
over
well, you know
like
what?
the obvious, there's nothing that you can really say about us that's gonna like bother us. So we get that out of the way, you know, and then you
Yeah.
like what's left over, you know, because in the end, like a lot of these bands that were playing and they were like really gung ho about like getting signed and like making it, whatever that means. And
Yeah.
we're just like, no, like we don't care. Like we're just here to play because we like the music, we love the music, you know, and we
Yeah.
really appreciate like just being able to share what we know, because you know how people can be, they get like really clicky and stuff and become like super territorial and they don't want to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
share anything, they gatekeep shit. And like I've never been like that. I've always been like,
Yeah.
no, let's talk music and stuff. And there's always been people who are like, oh yeah, like you don't know shit, man, like get the fuck out of here.
That's
I'm just
dork
like,
behavior.
yeah, it's just like whatever, you know. So I figure the more for me to listen to and just kind of nerd out. And so like that's
Right.
what I did all the time. It was just listening and finding new things. So I sang heavy into like a lot of like noise punk stuff. Like I still listen to them a lot now. There's a band from Japan called Gas Mask, and they were around like in '87. But like it's just total ferocious, like turn the distortion way up, you know, blur things out, super like terrible audio quality. Them, and there's another one, Dust Noise, dude. Like if you don't know
Dust
Dust
noise.
Noise, huge influence on sort of the stuff. Electro Hippies, same thing from like the UK, Heresy. So like a lot of these bands were really focused on creating like just audio sonic fury. And like locally, what was happening like around where I was living was just a bunch of dudes who were just trying to like look cool, you know. And that was just
Yeah.
like that was pretty much it. So yeah.
Yeah. So the other big question for me that I have is the other one you probably get asked all the time, but I have to know anyway, is why just bass and drums? Like why I mean, the decision to not use guitars to me seems like something that would be deliberate. Where did that come from and why did you decide to do that?
Yeah, like the original in the original lineup I was actually playing guitar, and I had just gotten introduced to God Stomper. So they were just drum and bass, and at the time I was kind of noticing that there weren't any drum and bass bands here in Oxnard. And so I was thinking like, you know, this would be a really cool way to stand out, especially if the whole point of the band is to make it to the point where people are kind of like tripped out with it, because you don't really associate bass, at least the way that I see it all the time, with like being like the standing, like I guess like, or the more prominent part of the sound. And a lot of the times, like in hardcore bands, when you hear the bass, you can barely hear it, you know? Like it's really mostly guitar that you can hear. And like everybody wants to be a guitar hero, which is cool, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. but it's also like, you got a bassist, use them. The bass is like the backbone, and if you tie it
Yeah.
really well with the kick drum when you're playing drums, like you have a whole band right there. So like I'm really into just like bass and drum acts just in general. Just because too, like a lot of people take too many creative liberties with guitars, because like after a while you get into like the solos and arpeggios, which are cool, they're great if you can do them, it's fine. But then like after a while you could just tell people kind of just like showing off, like, hey, look at me, that I can do this on a guitar. Like, all right, cool, but you got a band, like
Yeah.
let everybody have a little bit of space to breathe and stuff. So
Yeah.
a lot of it was there was no other bass and drum bands out there, and then I was able to get a lot heavier of a sound with a bass versus with my guitar. And yeah, I just had like a bunch of old distortion pedals that I found at the swap meet. I daisy chained them all together, and I was just able to get like a ton of feedback, and that was like a thing that really annoyed a lot of people, just like the horrendous feedback and stuff all the time. But then like it'd only be for like a few seconds, and before you knew it, we're on to the next song,
Yeah.
and but it worked. It weirded a lot of people out, and like I would always get people all the time and be like, oh, like where's your guitarist? So I'm like we don't need one, dude. Like we're good enough, without a guitarist.
Yeah, it's like, have you heard my
And,
fucking bass tone, dude?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was just pretty much it. It was like a way to stand out from every other band that was out there already. And then, just to kind of like showcase what you can do with the bass. Like you can play leads as a bass player. You can write full songs without a guitar. And like, you don't, not that you don't need it. It's cool if you got it. But, guitars are cool. I still play guitar now, but it just feels a lot more like heavy to play with the bass. Like the strings are heavier, and you just get a much more rough sound. And if you dial your settings just right, you can make it so that your bass doesn't just sound like a puddle of mud and water. It's you can get to like really like crank up the mid and the highs. You get it sounding just like like a freaking like a rocket just going. So it's nice.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially if you have like really good strings. Like people forget how critical it is to have like good fresh strings.
Yeah.
Like if you really
I
want
changed my strings like maybe 3 times in the last 10 years. It's not
Perfect. Nice and fresh. Nice and fresh.
Hey man,
I think the rust really helps, the sound be a lot more abrasive for sure.
I mean, you could take like the real cheap route. So the real secret is to just get like stainless steel strings, and whenever you're like, oh yeah, my strings are getting like real fucked up, you just take your stainless steel strings off, you throw them in a pot of water, and you boil them for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
No shit. Like, so it doesn't work with nickel strings because nickel strings will rust, but stainless steel strings, you can actually bring your strings back to life by doing that.
Dang.
Okay, a little hack. Yeah.
That is not a joke. You really can do that.
So I have a question. Obviously, you said you were a big time gamer. The pain I have every day. Now, did that come from you loving Mike Tyson's Punch Out, or were you just captivated by Mike Tyson's lunacy? Because I always forget how kind of wild he was until I start hearing like the clips that you guys play on there, and I was like, man, this guy was really kind of deranged at one point in time.
He was a fucking beast, and he still is. Like, it really pains me, like the whole Jake Paul or Logan Paul, whatever that dude's name is.
Don't
I didn't even see it.
Me.
But like, like growing up, I love Punch Out, obviously, and then watching the fights was pretty cool. And then he was in the news a lot because he was always in trouble with shit. But like when you heard him speak, you were like kind of like, oh, okay, like this guy doesn't sound anything like the way he looks. One,
right.
And then he would talk a lot about like his pain that he would feel like on a daily basis. So we used that on one of the samples. And like it kind of just like worked itself out. I remember I had the original art, and it was just like a screen grab of his face from the game. And then I showed it to my brother, and he's like, yeah, it's okay, but it's not like, it's nothing like to wow about. So I spent like a good, like, I don't know, 10 hours just kind of like building or designing the layout to make it look like it was an actual NES grab. And I got Mario, the noise symbol in there. So like after that was in there, I'm like, we have to put fucking Mike Tyson samples in here. And like there was so much, like all his fights and stuff, and like his interviews. Yeah. And like the whole like fucking him biting people and shit,
Yeah, it was a wild guy.
I mean, Evander Holyfield shit is still
Yeah.
legendary to this
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Yeah, the clip of him telling, if I believe it was a reporter, he tells him that he's gonna fuck them until they love him is just so.
Dude.
What upset him to that point that he needed to say that is just beyond me. But yeah, he is quite the character.
Yeah. So like, I think it was also just like a really cool, like, I guess a cool way to compare like, the image that we had at the time. So like a lot of the time people didn't know because we didn't put our faces out there a lot. And we would go to a show and people didn't even know like we were like there in the crowd or whatever up until we started to play. And I think it's kind of similar. Like Mike Tyson, you just saw him at first, but you didn't know what the guy sounded like, And
Yeah.
then when you finally got to talk to him, you're kind of just like jarred a little bit, like, oh wow, like I had this vision already, I had this idea, but like now that I've actually gotten to know a little bit more, like it's I have to rewrite this idea that I have in my head already. So
Right.
a lot of people see like the art and they think, "Whoa, that's so cool!" And like, why Mike Tyson? I'm always like, "Why not, dude? Like Mike Tyson's sick."
Yeah,
And
man.
just the fact that it ties in with the games, and I think I sampled the intro to the Punch Out theme in there too. But it was just like that was the idea. Like I really wanted to keep it in like with a certain theme. Because our first album, I kind of just like haphazardly threw stuff together, and like all the samples are random. Like there's Street Fighter and Dumb and Dumber and fucking SpongeBob and stuff, and it was kind of like everywhere, And so
Yeah.
with the next one, I'm like, okay, I want to really keep it more streamlined with a certain just like theme, and that was the whole idea. And since then, I've been really trying to do it by focusing on certain things. So like on one of the
Yeah.
most recent splits we did. I grabbed like these old Santo wrestling movie samples, and then I used art from the theatrical posters as like a release art for that. And so that's just kind of been like the way to do it for me anyway, only because it makes it a lot easier, like if you can find something that inspires you, whether it's like an old like classic movie or a video game, like you'll never have anything to like not write about. Like you're always going to be able to
Yeah.
figure something out, because writing the music is one part, but then figuring out lyrics is like another like thing you have to kind of figure out, and then the art, and then making sure that it kind of fits in line with the whole theme of like everything, like because I'm still like trying to play like Powerviolence, but I'm also trying to like show people a lot too, like what you can do, like you don't have to just be posting up gore and stuff and like really bleak imagery all the time. Like we do it sometimes, but it's not like the central preoccupation of like what I'm thinking about every day. Like
Yeah.
I'm not, looking at fucking gore videos online. Like I'm just
Yeah.
playing Metal Gear Solid, or fucking Mario, whatever the fuck. I'm just nerding
Right.
out. But like
Yeah, I
a
mean,
lot
if
of
you're
people, and not throwing shade on people who like are into that, but it's just like, after a while I'm like, like don't you want to look at something that isn't so depressing after a while?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you want
Violent.
to, like, have like a good dream maybe for once, but like
That brings me, I guess, to a point. We were talking yesterday about this a little bit, where I don't know if you saw a couple months ago, there was a lot of backlash about people using like AI generated album covers, which I do think is lame. But it was funny that so many people were against it, and they're like, "This is ruining the creativity, and this is so bad." But a lot of album covers for like gore bands and grind bands are just like a dead body with a little logo in the corner. So it's not like what is happening already is extremely creative. You know what I mean? It's not like it's taking that much away. Granted, the AI, album covers I do think are lame, but it's not.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the end of the world to use that as opposed to the headless lady.
I mean, there's always an uncanny. Obviously, I'm not the first to say this, but there is like a weird, uncanny valley, like off-putting feeling to like every AI generated album cover I've seen.
Right.
Like the I mentioned the other day that the Deicide one looks fucking ridiculous. I think Pestilence had one too that was like really fucking stupid looking.
Yeah, no, they look bad.
Oh yeah, but it's like I think you're right, Eli. I did think about that a little more, and I think you're right in that. Just, I mean, if your cover is just like a chick whose like head has been cut off, it's like that to me at this point in my life, it's like, I mean, I'm in my mid 30s at this point. It's like that shit is kind of off-putting to me at this point. I don't know, man. I'm with Eddie on this one. I would rather not just watch fucking ISIS beheading videos all day.
It's not really ideal.
I feel like that would lead to some sort of, or I'm positive that would lead to like some sort of mental illness if you did that too often.
I definitely agree. It's not right. And like you said, like you're in your 30s, like I'm in my 30s too. And like I think about my mortality a lot now, you know, and I'm just thinking like, I don't want to be featured on some 16-year-old Gore album, you know, like he wrote it in his fucking room and he lives with his mom and the mom's like, hey, Brandon, you want a Pop-Tart, you know? Like, your mom, I'm working on this Gore album. You don't understand, you know? And like seeing my body right there, I'm like, dude, fuck that, you know? Like it's lazy mom. And it's also just like, in a way, it's kind of disrespectful, you know? Like, you don't know the full story, like what happened to the person. You don't know like who's like sensitive to it. And I get like if you're trying to be like shock rock stuff like that, but like, you know, Gore, you know, like they didn't put dead bodies everywhere, you know, they were just shocking, you know, they had like a crazy like you know, theatrical presentation and shit, spewing like blood and stuff out there. So like there's other ways you can do it for sure.
Well, I mean, Gore, the thing about Gore is that they've always treated their imagery as art. Like Gore's members have pretty much always been like college educated guys who at their core were artists and understood like the value of shock in art. They didn't like they decided to take it farther than just like, oh yeah, let's throw a fucking dismembered corpse on the cover and call it good, because like that is just like, that's like a different realm of tastelessness, which like, not to say that Gore were not tasteless at points, they absolutely were, but I think there's degrees of it. And like, I don't know, I'm with you in that. After a while you start to think like, oh yeah, this is like, it's hard to it might be hard to remember after a while if you're like one of the Gore grind guys doing that shit. Like, that's a person on your cover, like that's somebody who like was alive at one point.
They also, I feel like people probably become super desensitized to it too. Like if you're just listening to it all day and seeing it, you honestly probably just disconnects with you that like, oh, this was somebody's dad, and then you're like, well, it does look sick if I turn it black and white and, you know, put a logo. You just stop thinking about it, so you're like, I'll just do it like this.
But like,
I think it's also like, it's easy to forget too. Like I can't think of one like Gore noise album that I've heard recently where I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta spin that one again, you know, like
run this one back.
Yeah, you know, like it's just like it's an entire genre. And I guess you could kind of say the same for like harsh noise stuff, but I think it's a bit more creative with harsh noise stuff. Because like I used to do a lot more of that experimental stuff like a couple years back, and you know, it was just like, it wasn't about bleak imagery. It was like a bleak idea, but it was also more like, okay, like trying to make sense of these ideas. Whereas with like Gore stuff, it's just like, we're showing it because this is what you're supposed to do when you're in a Gore band. You know, you show like really shocking, gross imagery. And, you know, I'm not saying like both don't have like their negative parts, or, you know, but it's also just like you could do so much more. Like you don't have to rely on shock and stuff, especially if you're like a talented musician, you know, like that's something that I think would take away from the merit of someone who practices every day. Like I have a lot of respect for the dudes from Sulfuric Cautery, Isaac and them. That dude, if you ever see him playing live, you're just like floored every fucking time. And like you see him like on his Instagram, if you follow him, he's just practicing pretty much every day and like getting faster and faster. Like one day, I told him this, I'm like, one day it's just gonna sound like a continuous like hum, your snare, you know. You're not even gonna hear like every individual hit. You're gonna just have like a string, like a buzzing, humming sound.
Yeah.
I think he's like, yeah, one day I'll get there or something. But
I am a fan of a lot of Gore bands, but I see what you're saying, that maybe they don't have to use so much of that imagery. I know Max from Lapoma, I don't know if you've listened to them. He said before that he likes to use like health stuff, like just surgery photos and stuff, because it's more natural and like scientific. I believe it's something, you know, I'm paraphrasing it, but he said that he tries to stay away from just straight up pictures of people dying because he feels like it's disrespectful, and then use surgery pictures and shit.
Yeah, it does feel less, I guess the only word is exploitative, really.
Yeah.
That's does
fair.
that make sense?
That's true. And
Yeah.
it's still shocking to see someone with a big giant tumor. It definitely grabs your
Yeah.
attention. It's not as, bad as somebody dying. I had another question for you, Eddie. So I know you talked about like the hardcore bands that you were listening to and the Powerviolence bands and stuff. Is there anybody that you've gotten inspiration from that we wouldn't think of? Maybe like a softer type of act? Like I love The Cure. I love listening to The
Mhm.
Cure, but it's
Yeah.
not something that you would immediately tie back to like grind and gore and stuff like that.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So definitely now I would say like I've definitely kind of dialed back on like how much grind and power violence I listen to. Only because I really got into like jazz and jazz fusion stuff. So recently, and it was all through like the YouTube algorithms, but I really got heavily into Masayoshi Takanaka.
Okay.
And this guy, I actually saw him perform live at the Wiltern back in March. And ever since I saw him, like I told myself, like I'm never gonna see a more profound act in my life. Like I know this is it.
Really?
Yeah, man. Like if you're not into it, you're not like if you haven't heard him, I always urge people like you gotta check this guy out. And like for me, it's kind of like a litmus test because like I don't want to spoil anything or even hype it too much, but there is a theme with all of his music, and you have to really just kind of like allow yourself to feel it and to believe it because this guy, he's just purely optimistic. He's like a virtuoso guitar player, but he plays a bunch of different stuff, and he's been around for a long time. When he was playing, I think he was like, I want to say like 71 or something like that. I forget.
Mm.
And yeah, he had even like oxygen tanks on stage with him. He just had
Well,
like,
that's a wild move.
well, it's LA like air quality, so that's
Yeah. Okay.
but yeah, like I saw him, and I've been listening to this guy continuously for like the last 5 years, and
Yeah.
what really gets me is just like how proficient he is and how like it's just a part of him. Like making music is his like identity, and like you really feel that in his music and in his art, and like the way he kind of like projects himself. Like he'll wear like these Hawaiian kind of style t-shirts, and he's always got like glasses on, slick back hair,
Oh,
or he'll
real
come out with
quick,
like a suit.
is he
Oh,
the guy? Is he the guy that has the surfboard guitar? Am I thinking of
yeah,
the right guy?
that's him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
man.
Yeah. All right.
So
I thought that was him.
a lot of like my recent inspiration has just been like not trying to like idolize the guy or like whatever, but like 'cause I know I could never hit that caliber only because I don't have the time to really like sit down and learn music theory and all the chords and stuff and scales. But I try my best to practice as much as I can on a daily basis, and even try to like challenge myself to use certain drum patterns or certain bass lines and kind of morph them into like, oh, okay, like how can I sneak this lick into like a power violence song, how can I do this, and then really just kind of project this image of like positivity, because music's a beautiful thing, and you can go kind of everywhere with it, but the thing that you shouldn't do is like really like make people uncomfortable, and you shouldn't like gatekeep it, or you shouldn't like make it so that it seems that people are intimidated to get into it, so like
Yeah.
I know when I started I wanted to make people cringe, so it's kind of like a step away from that kind of direction, but at the same time too, I think that's the whole point of the art that I was using at the time, which was it was relatable, it was funny, it was Mike Tyson on the NES, or it was Solid
Yeah.
Snake on this cover, or like we did a shirt recently and I put the Dumb and Dumber dudes on it, and I'm like, that's funny, like it's relatable
Yeah.
if you know the movie, and you can like I love throwing out random like freaking lines for people sometimes, like, hey, big gulps, like and
See,
like if they get it, it's cool, but if they don't, like it's whatever, you just like you figure like they don't really get it yet, whatever it is.
Right.
However you want.
Anybody
Yeah.
who throws a Dumb and Dumber sample into their songs like that, that's fine with me.
It's an automatic winner.
Dumb and Dumber's a fucking great movie. Like, what
It
are you
is,
talking about? You
It
gotta. I will say though, at some point you gotta throw in the clip of Jim Carrey when he's in the hotel. He's like, "Really? That's great. We landed on the moon." you got to throw that into a song at some point because that's my favorite line from that movie.
Nice. Try and work it out one day, man.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I love the fact that it's like in a weird way, it's surprising, but it's also refreshing. You wanting to bring like a little more positivity into your music, a little more lightheartedness. Which I mean, obviously, I guess anyone who's a little more narrow-minded would think like, oh, like what are you doing bringing that into like extreme music? You can't do that. I'm like, fuck you, you can't. Like, shut up. But like, how do you respond? Yeah, like how do you respond to people or mentalities like that who say that you can't bring those sorts of things into music or into the
You know,
music you play?
it's something that we dealt with a lot in our earlier days, and now I think we've been around so long that people really respect our creative like licenses and stuff. So they
Yeah.
don't mind and they don't really say anything, you know. I hear a lot like, "Oh, they've been around for a long time." So like, you know, it's just new Sordo stuff. And so like at this point, I don't try to do anything that's out of like I guess out of step with what we've been doing before. It's just more of the same. You know, like I'm not trying to like I guess prove anything anymore. Like I remember when I was younger and starting the band, I wanted to like make people cringe and like make like all the hardcore bros like just like cover their ears, you know. But now like it's been so like there's just like a lot of positive like feedback that I gotten from people. Like kids will be like, "Dude, like I play bass now because of you." I'm like, "Wow, that's something," you know?
Fuck yeah.
Or like, "How do you get your tone like that?" And it's always like, I don't know, dude, just cheap pedals, you know, and cool pen, and you know, just give it your all. Like that's really what it's about. And so a lot of it really kind of stems from being told at a certain age you can't do this, you're being gate kept, you don't belong into this thing, but really kind of overcoming that and really like making your point being heard, because that's a big thing, like we grew up in a very predominantly just like what's the word I'm looking for, underdeveloped place. It's Oxnard, a lot of strawberry fields, a lot of workers around and migrant workers and stuff, and a lot of people don't really stay indoors a lot. They're usually outside kind of doing something or getting into trouble. And especially like when it was like out there in school, like like everybody's parents were working, and like instead of like the kids being like chill and just being cool at home, it was like, oh, I gotta go be a vago outside, I gotta go do something, I'm bored here, like this isn't the life for me, I gotta get stoned and get drunk before it's noon and do something violent or whatever. And it was just like I don't know really what I'm going with this, but I guess the point that I'm trying to make is it's not cool to be told you can't do anything, whether it's like even going outside or walking out in a certain area. So like whenever like we play, like we're very aware of like all these things still. Like they're still very, I guess what's the word I'm looking for? They matter. They're very relative today still, but it's also something that it shouldn't stop people from doing what they want to do. If you want to make a band, even if it's like a Gore band, like go for it. Don't stop yourself. Like you're only your own limit. You shouldn't limit yourself. You should really give it a go, because you really don't know like what can happen if you just like tell yourself like, hey, I can do this. It's positive. And like when I was younger, for example, like I didn't think I'd be able to travel anywhere. And ever since I've been like playing for Sordo, like we got a chance to go to Canada back in like I forget what year it was already, but we went there, played a lot of different cities, and we've been getting a lot of invitations just to go out pretty much anywhere. And really, the only like constraint now is just time and money, being able to do it all. But just having the options there, it's phenomenal, honestly. To think like like man, like I made this in my bedroom one day, and like I'm being invited out to freaking like Japan or Europe or wherever it is. Like I still want to be able to play Obscene Extreme one day.
Oh yeah, that'd be so awesome.
Yeah, until then I'm just like I'm still content like to catch up with old splits and to practice every day, because that's just like kind of my life right now, is just working on stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think one of my last real questions for you, explain the name Sordo, if you would. Like, yeah, where does that come from? What does it mean?
Yeah, Sordo is just it's Spanish for the word deaf. So yeah,
Okay.
like
That
that's
rocks.
all it is. And like it really, like at the beginning when I had a band, like trying to make it something, I was kind of going for like any name that I could think of. But then like I remember it was back in like the MySpace days, I think. There was like all these artists all the time and stuff. And there's this one like ska band from Mexico or somewhere, and they were called Sordos. And I'm like, oh, let me just remove the S. They'll never say anything, you know. But it stuck because like literally people were like going deaf at our shows because of how loud we were playing, and just like covering their ears, trying to like escape like the pain and stuff. Um, but that's all it means. It means deaf in Spanish. Yeah.
That's funny. It's funny you bring up the reaction that people have to the noise. I worked at a label for like 2 years, and I was trying to get a lot of grind bands signed, but I tried to get you guys signed because I was listening to you so much. And I remember I played you guys for my boss, and he was just like, without even he was like, "What the fuck is this?" He's like, "It's just noise." He's like, "I don't get it." He's like, "You really listen to this?" I was like, "Yeah, I listen to it all the time." I was like, "You don't," and he just didn't grasp it, didn't understand it. He was like, "This is like, I don't get it." But I mean, to your point, you were making noise to scare people away, and it was working.
Yeah,
Which like the idea of you just like playing noisy just to like piss off all like the hardcore bros, like admirable goal in and of itself right there.
Yeah.
And I love hardcore, so I mean, but anything to piss off the dudes was just like, you can't play this. I'm like, no, fuck you.
Yeah, you don't want to deal with that stuff.
We're literally just gonna turn up the amps to drown you out.
You're
I was just say it's a good litmus test to see like like people who you want to like connect with, because like if you can find somebody who's open minded, like, oh cool, like I'll listen to that and like just appreciate it for what it is. It's
I
great.
feel like you can, yeah, I feel like you could even go so far as to say like, oh, like I mean, I'm not really into your music, but like I respect what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah, I feel like either one of those people is like somebody you want to keep around.
a good look.
Yeah, like,
What's your favorite game right now? You said that you're always nerding out playing a lot of games. What have you been playing lately? Anything good?
I wish I was more like modern with what was playing right now. So I've been
Yeah.
trying to play what's it called? It's like some World War II game. Hell Let Loose, I think.
Hell
I,
Let Loose, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's on my wish list on Steam still, but like I just don't have time for it right now.
Yeah.
The one game that I'm trying to play is this one called DayZ. It's like a zombie game.
Oh, DayZ, yeah.
And I've just started it. Like I only have a couple hours on it. But like one of my main games recently has always been Smash Bros. Like, I like that a
Yeah.
lot. I got pretty
Smash
good
Bros
at
is fun
that.
as fuck.
But I remember going to like a tournament one day and just getting my ass kicked by some like
Oh,
16-year-old kid who hadn't showered in like a month, and I'm like, I gotta go.
I have so many friends who play Smash Bros all day, and I'll think that I'm really doing good, and then I'll go and play them, and they will just beat the shit out of me.
Yeah,
I'll get
It's
you just get
ridiculous.
killed. I hate it.
Yeah.
I love the whole like, oh, you mean a Smash Brothers player you can smell before you can see? Shocker.
100%. Yeah, that's tons of.
I've
Like,
never
you
met
smell them,
anybody
just
like
walk
that.
away. Like, yeah, this dude doesn't do anything. Doesn't
It's gonna be
fucking
bad.
bathe. Yeah. He's gonna whoop
Oh
my
yeah,
ass.
like
No, that's tough.
oh yeah.
Upcoming Sordo stuff. You have anything upcoming?
Yeah, we're working on. I'm still trying to do the vocals for it, but there's a split LP out with a few bands, Hacked Apart, Snag, and I don't remember the other name right now, but it features members of Family Vacation. But I think it's a different
Okay.
different band that's going on there right now. I'm trying to finish up a split tape with Kanoko Likes Fruit, and then another one with Gusto. That's not the full name. Hold on, I have it somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude.
But he might hear it. He might bum out on me, but it's a buddy of mine. His name's Steve. But we talked. I've been trying to like find time to get like a T-shirt made so we can like, help fund this tape to get it out. But it's just been a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's in the works. I'm trying to write out an EP, like a self-title, because it's just been like splits for the last couple of years. But this one's more themed around like again like Nintendo stuff. So it's called
Yeah.
Rob Hayward's Shattered Limbs, and it's all based on 1080, the old snowboarding game.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
And like I'm trying to write like different kind of stuff, not to like change anything, but like just to express like my own creative outlet. But it's a lot more like beats kind of stuff, drum and bass kind of like thing. Like right now I'm really into like the drum and bass jungle beat stuff. Like I really want to try to get into
Okay.
that one day and maybe even fuse like that with power violence. But again, like I don't have enough time to practice. And
Right.
once I get there, like I might get there to that point, but just still writing stuff out and putting it down. Like I even did like a little music video a while back. I put one of the songs and I tied it with this like old footage from this game called Time Crisis. It's like a shooter game back in the arcade.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude,
And
I spent so much money on Time Crisis 3
dude,
when I was a
oh yeah,
teenager. I
fun game.
like the arcade in my local movie theater. I probably spent like well over $100 in quarters over the span of a
Same,
couple
man.
years playing Time Crisis 3. I love that game so much. Rip Time Crisis 3. I miss it.
Rip Time Crisis 3. I've never played Time Crisis 3.
Oh, dude, if you
Lacking.
ever have the means to play Time Crisis 3, you absolutely should. That
Yeah.
game fucking
That's the one with
rules.
the machine
will.
gun, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Time Crisis 3 and House of the Dead were always
Yeah.
like
Oh, House of the
the
Dead was
best.
fun.
Dude, House of the Dead and House of the Dead 2 were like my shit back in the day.
I'm
Loved
seeing
them.
Time Crisis right now. This looks familiar, but I don't think that
Yeah,
I've ever played this.
If you've ever been in an arcade anywhere in the United States in the past like 20 years, you have seen a Time
Yeah, it's probably
Crisis
been in there.
cabinet. Absolutely, you have seen them before.
Oh yeah, that looks sick.
I had to
Oh,
look it
yeah.
up, but the other tape is for the other guy. It's Retro Gusto. That's what
Retro
it is.
Gusto.
I was
Retro
saying
Gusto.
Rancho, and that was
Nice.
totally wrong. I was thinking of Rancho Relaxo, which is like another band from LA.
They're good. I like Rancho Relaxo.
Yeah, I think they're drum and bass too.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, that's the first tape we're trying to get out, and then the Kanoko Likes Fruit. I'm still waiting to hear back from the guy about his side of the material, but that's already out there. And then I was going pretty good, like recording stuff, like the first half of the year. We're not in June yet, but I'm hoping to get these next 2 or 3 that I have planned up before June ends. Just to have more stuff. I think last year I only did like maybe 2 releases, and then the year before that was like 1 or 2 again.
Yeah.
And that's like in my eyes, it's not enough of an output. Like if you have more T-shirts than you have releases, that's bad.
Kind of crazy. That
Yeah,
is
when-
kind of crazy.
It's the term you're looking for is merch core.
Yeah,
Merch core.
trying to avoid being just merch core and like
Yeah.
even if like doing merch is like, I mean, it's cool too. Like I at this
Yeah.
point I've kind of made like a point, like, you know, like to consider myself more of like a pop-up vendor / artist, you know, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Because I
Respect.
print all my own T-shirts, like, and I try to design them all here, and everything's done in house. Like whether it's the printing and the designing, and even like building the frames too. Like I'm a huge proponent of just DIY stuff all the time, as much as you
Yeah.
can, just to kind of
Yeah, it was-
remove like the need for like these
Yeah,
kinds
yeah,
of
no
services
middleman.
and stuff. Yeah, cutting
No
out the
middleman,
middleman, and then really just expressing your own creative outlet. That's like the biggest thing. Like really telling
Yeah, so
yourself like, you
you're-
can do something.
So you're like true DIY.
Yeah, as much as I can, you know. Like there's
Yeah.
little things like most of the time I'll print out stickers like on my printer here, but it's not the best quality, and so like I got some stickers made from this one company, Sticker Guy, I think.
Sure.
So like it just depends what it is. Like eventually maybe I'll build like my own pressing plant or something, but
Yeah.
I do have a buddy, he does his own lathe records, and he showed me his like
Ooh.
his, and
Oh,
I'm like,
sick.
dude, like that's fucking cool. Like, how'd you do it? And he's like, you know, just a schematic that I found and understanding like freaking science behind it. I'm like, that is fucking gnarly, man. So like,
Yeah.
in the future, I'd like to have that, like my own lathe, just cutting records like every fucking day. And then same with like tapes, you know, like I like to dub all my own stuff, and you know, whether it's designing like the freaking sleeves or the tape labels or even just spray painting that shit, you know, just
Yeah.
it's better than a CDR and like a little flimsy case, you know. And
Right.
just
Right.
trying to charge like
We-
$10 for that shit, and just like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
I'm
not
gonna
worth
be
it.
real. I'm gonna be real. The only physical media I buy anymore is CDs. Like I hate vinyl. I don't like
Really?
tape either. I don't like tapes either. I've put up with too many shitty tapes, and I can't
Yeah.
stand vinyl. So like that's all I go for anymore.
Well,
I realize
recently-
I'm in the minority here, but
I don't think so, because like I'm kind of there too. I've been trying to like put a bunch of stuff on mini CDs, and like one of my main
Oh,
goals
wow.
is to like return to like, you know, like the old records from like the Crass records that say like pay no more than 80p or whatever, like 80 cents.
Yeah.
So like my idea was to throw a full EP on a mini CD, and I've been successful like in this like the small tests that I've done, but like I was able to get a few packs out to like Australia and England, and the postage was like $2. So like
That's
if
not bad.
you're
Fuck
that
yeah.
desperate for like physical media, you know, and you don't want to hassle with like all the vinyl and like the expensive shipping and stuff, mini CDs will be the way to go. But even then, like it's kind of superfluous, you know, if you have digital downloads, but people do appreciate having something that they can hold on to. And
Yeah.
so like I was able to get like a mini CD and a bunch of stickers, and sometimes I can get a patch in there too. And the shipping is super cheap, you know, but it's a fetish that people have for vinyl and for tapes. Like I still have a bunch of my old tapes, but my collection is like reduced by like I'd say 80% to this point. Like I
Yeah.
don't really have a lot of stuff. I don't even distro anymore. So it's just like, and it's easier too. Like I've had to move around a lot recently. And so like my thing here is, I know you can see it, like I have like a bunch of books. I do a bookstore too.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to move all this stuff around, you know, sometimes. And then like at one point I had like this whole wall covered with books, but I also had like a wall covered with tapes, and another one with vinyl and stuff, and the CDs for another one. And then I'm thinking like,
It's a lot.
yeah, it's too much
Yeah.
stuff, you know, like I
Yeah.
need to like find my real happiness somewhere else, because it's obvious to find all these things that I'm collecting right now.
Damn.
Yeah, man. Well, I think that's about Sam. If you have anything, you have any other questions?
You know, I mean, I've asked just about everything I really wanted to ask.
Yeah, I think so too. Thanks so much for coming on with us, man. We appreciate it big time.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys, for having me.
Yeah, we were both real stoked to have you on. We've both been, Eli more so than I, but
I've been listening to you guys forever, so I was fucking thrilled. I mean, I told you I was being a huge pain in the ass. First I kept trying to get you guys to come to Cleveland. I remember back in the, I had to create a Facebook because I didn't have one. And I would just message the Sordo page, and I'd be like, you know, do you guys want to play a show in Cleveland? This is before I had any job, and you're like, well, how are we supposed to get there? And I was like, I don't know. Let me get back to you. I was like, I was like 17 though. I was trying to make something work, and then even when I got a job, I was like trying to get you guys signed all the time. And it was like a label that did. Like I Set My Friends on Fire and like Hot Topic bands signed. So they were like, what the fuck? Like, no. But yeah, so I was thrilled. I was happy you came on, man. It was a big day.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Thanks
if you
for having me,
guys
It's really fun
if you
to
guys
chat.
ever somehow manage to make it up to Oregon, like I will absolutely try to come and see you, because I would
Nice.
fucking kill
We're
to see
at
you guys
Oregon.
live.
We played in Medford and Eugene and Portland a
Oh,
while
Medford.
back. Or that was on our
Ugh.
first tour.
Oh, Medford is fucking miserable. Eugene is fine, but Medford is fucking. I would rather avoid having to go to Medford if I can. Eugene and Portland are fine, or like even Salem would be fine, but like Medford, I mean, I won't want to, but I guess I will. For you guys, I guess I can make the trip. But, yeah, man. Eddie, thank you so much for coming on, man. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. The first episode, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks guys for having me.
All right, yeah. All right, see you guys.
All right,
take
see you,
care.
man. Bye.